With so much climate change happening, I bet you're wondering how to fix it. There are plenty of large-scale ways and small-scale ways to go about doing this. One of the small-scale ways that you can stop climate change is through recycling. This means recycling everything, including things like your dinner scraps. Making your own compost makes sure that these dinner scraps go back into the earth, unlike if they were to be put into a landfill. A second way you can personally help stop climate change is by using an electric car, because they let off less CO2 emissions. A third way you can help stop climate change is by eating one meat-free meal a day. A little-known fact is that many greenhouse emissions come from large meat farms. One large-scale way to help stop climate change is by finding alternative energy sources. A popular alternative is wind farms, as long as people are willing to cooperate. Denmark is a good example of this.
You can see Denmark's ubiquitous windmills however you arrive there, by air, land, or sea.
Today we have 30% of all our electricity stemming from renewables, primarily wind and biomass.
On the streets of Copenhagen, the Danes' commitment to living and working more sustainably has become part of their national culture.
As most other Copenhageners, I use my bicycle every day to go back and forth to the town hall.
To accelerate the transition to more sustainable electric vehicles, the government has suspended its painful new car tax on EVs, which can be as high as 180% for some carbon-burning cars.
We had a very tough wake-up call back in 1973, when actually we had a crisis, an oil crisis. At that time we were 99% dependent on imported fossil fuels. So it turned so bad that people were prohibited to drive their private cars on Sundays.
Now, as Denmark's Minister of Climate and Energy, Connie Hedegaard will be chairing the COP15 climate change debates. She's hoping Denmark's success in reducing its carbon emissions will translate to the rest of the world.
Another newer large-scale way to help prevent climate change is through sequestration, or carbon capture and storage.
CCS is a tested and proven technology. Its ability to reduce carbon dioxide emissions is recognized around the world by groups such as the International Energy Agency and the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. CO2 collected during the carbon capture and storage process can be pumped into an oil reservoir to help increase production. It can also be pumped kilometers deep below the Earth's surface, where it will be permanently sealed. Let's take a closer look at how this is done. Many industries, including coal-fired electricity plants, cement plants, oil sands upgraders, and oil refineries, use fossil fuels to run their facilities. This creates CO2 emissions. The first step in CCS is filtering the carbon dioxide from other emissions. Next, the carbon dioxide is compressed for transport. It can either be sent to its destination through a pipeline or put into a tanker and trucked. Captured carbon has been safely transported via trucks in Alberta for more than 2 decades, primarily for enhanced oil recovery. In fact, you've probably already passed a tanker containing CO2 on the highway. There are also a few smaller enhanced oil recovery projects in Alberta using a pipeline. One of the world's largest CCS project pipes carbon from a plant in North Dakota to Weyburn, Saskatchewan. Since 2007, approximately 10 million tons of carbon dioxide has safely traveled more than 300 kilometers and given new life to a depleting oil field. Enhanced oil recovery has tremendous potential to help increase production from Alberta's existing oil fields. When carbon dioxide is used in enhanced oil recovery, it's injected into an oil formation to help the oil flow more freely. That means less hard-to-reach oil is left in the ground. It also means energy revenues and jobs for Albertans. Research shows that billions of barrels of conventional oil may be recoverable using enhanced oil recovery in Alberta. There may also be opportunity for enhanced natural gas recovery. CO2 not used in enhanced oil recovery can be injected into very deep geological reservoirs for permanent storage. The Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin is the geological feature that has held the energy reserves for eons. Once the oil or gas is extracted, the depleted reservoir becomes an ideal place to safely store carbon dioxide. The CO2 is sealed in the depleted reservoir by the rock structure. and the well used to inject the carbon is then sealed with concrete to prevent leakage. The well is then monitored.
Another alternative power source is nuclear power, despite the controversy. The IFR-2 reactor is a newly developed reactor that has been considered natural disaster proof. The IFR-2 has been tested under simulation under past natural disasters conditions such as the Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima. The amount of waste the America's nuclear power plant has produced is enough to fill a football field and would stand only 3 meters high.
Located in Ontario, Canada, this is one of the world's largest nuclear power plants. Covering more than 3 square miles, Bruce Power has 8 nuclear reactors, each capable of generating more than 750 megawatt hours of electricity. Altogether, that's enough to power a city of 5 million. And for the 4,000 people who work at Bruce Power, cleanliness is an obsession. When leaving a radiation area, each employee must pass through a full-body radiation monitoring gate. This sensor makes sure that employees haven't been exposed to radioactive particles. Today is a special day because the engineers at Bruce Power are refurbishing 2 of their nuclear reactors. And that means for the first time in nearly 30 years, they'll open their reactor and allow a team of engineers to work on the core. Giving a nuclear reactor a makeover is a multi-billion-dollar job. Bruce Power CEO Duncan Hawthorne explains.
The key challenge, I think, is being able to disassemble a reactor core that's been in operation for 25 years. That involves disassembly of a lot of irradiated components. Clearly not a task that we could send men in to do. It required the development of first-of-a-kind robotics.
So a team of custom-built radiation-proof robots are brought in and controlled remotely from the power station's retube control center. With the radioactive tubes removed from the core, it's safe for the team to go in. The reactor core is a big round disc with slots that hold hundreds of radioactive tubes. To avoid contamination, anyone who goes near it must wear these protective suits. Once the reactor core has been checked, cleaned, and rebuilt, it'll be time to fill it up again with uranium. Of course, the problem with nuclear chain reactions is you have to be able to stop them. Otherwise, you get what scientists call a nuclear meltdown. However, the guys in the control room are relaxed. Not only is the reactor sealed within 6.5-foot thick reinforced concrete walls, it also shuts down automatically if the temperature rises or the pressure drops too quickly. This keeps the chain reactions in check and prevents a catastrophic explosion. But there's still plenty of power to generate an immense amount of heat. The heat is used to turn water into steam, a process they monitor carefully from the control center. These massive turbines laid out in the quarter-mile-long, 20-story tall turbine hall turn the steam into electricity. Like a violent steam storm spinning a supersonic windmill, the turbine revolves at 1,800 RPM, driving a generator. This giant turbine converts the movement into more than 750 megawatts of electricity, enough to meet the needs of 500,000 people. Which leaves one small problem: radioactive nuclear waste. After a year or so in the core, the fuel bundles are depleted, but they are now extremely hot and radioactive. They're so hot, the rods have to be stored in water for 10 years before they can be safely disposed of, as Environment Manager Doug Borum explains.
We put them in these pools to actually allow them to cool down in temperature and also allow the radioactivity to dissipate.
This 26-foot deep reservoir has over 730,000 radioactive fuel bundles sunk in its depths.
Climate change is real. It's happening. It's up to us to utilize these alternative power sources, or the alternative will be catastrophic. This is an issue now, and something must be done.